We're particularly delighted tonight to have the founder of WP Engine, Jason Cohen, here tonight. So can you give a big Limerick welcome to Jason? So, first time in Limerick, Jason?
Yes.
Are you delighted to be here?
Yes, I can't wait. I hear that Tom Collins is the place to go. In America, the Tom Collins is a drink, and no one here seems to know what it is. They're like, well, you have the bar. It's yours. So I'm going to go see if they have one and then drink in.
You've obviously got very good staff giving you really good, intelligent advice.
Yeah, they're intelligent.
So you've been involved as founder and co-founder of 4 startups. As you grew up, your parents were both educators. Was there an entrepreneurial streak in the family, or what got you started with the whole tech scene?
No, they thought it was nuts because they were both teachers. So what do you need a job? Like, that's what you do, is you go get a job. But when I was in elementary school, I had a general store where you could buy paper or pencils for 25 cents. So I always wanted to. I guess I always had it in me to do it. But really, the answer is I don't like it when people tell me what to do, and so I have to sort of make my own thing so that I can be my own boss, which is the worst because I'm a terrible boss. I think actually founders are generally terrible bosses, right? Because they don't like people and they think they're always right and whatever. And you have to, right? Because what kind of hubris does it take to say, what the world needs is me and my ideas and my company and everything, right? That takes a certain. Well, who the heck are you? So yeah, you need a little bit of that actually. At the same time, it makes you not a great person and definitely a bad boss because you're not kind of thinking about other people except how to get them to give you money. So that's not very nice. And so you have to sort of deal with that. But anyway, so I think that's why, because I don't like that. And
so what was your first sort of dabbling into the tech world, your first computer? What age were you?
I'm the usual, I had a computer when I was young, and I did stupid things on it, and then I liked to program, so it's that story. The engineer who likes to code for it, instead of interacting with people. And
surely the parents saw that there might be a future in that, no?
Yes, because computers always seem like a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, so that part was all right. The part where I didn't have a job, that's the part that wasn't so good.
What did you study in college?
Computer science.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what then sparked the interest in business, or was it a particular project that got you involved?
It's always been that I had a project or an idea, and then I get it out there, and then something serendipitous happens. And I think that's generally interesting. And we were talking to somebody today about this, where people say you make your own luck. That's not quite right. I think it's more like that phrase, "Fortune favors the prepared." So it's more like there is good luck and there is bad luck all the time. And then what are you doing? Are you out there, putting yourself out there and doing something so that maybe if the good luck happens, you can get it, and if the bad luck happens, perhaps it doesn't have to be fatal. And are you being honest about that so that you can address all those things and correctly? So I've always had projects and put them out because the internet's great because you can do that with the internet. That's new. That wouldn't have worked before, and so people could try it and like it, and then maybe I could start charging for it. And again, another nice thing, especially right now, is you can sell anywhere. And so in software today, distribution is global and selling is global. So that's very convenient for a software company now, obviously. But that is the advantage. The bad news is you're also competing with the whole world because everyone else can too. But that's an amazing thing. It wasn't even true 20 years ago.
What was the first startup then that you actually got some revenue from?
So one of these serendipitous things. So I made a library in C it's very technical. So I made something that made it easy to build stuff for different machines, like a Windows machine and a Mac and a Unix, because Linux was just coming out at that time. So different Unixes, and you could make software and it would run everywhere. So that led to creating a consulting company making software that did that, and that led to $1 million a year contract with a public company doing that. And then eventually 9/11 happened and that all fell apart. But that was the thing. But again, it was serendipitous, making a thing and putting it out there, and then that turned into other things.
And, what was your attitude to bootstrapping versus funding? Did you have to bootstrap in the beginning, or did you need the funding to scale?
Well, that first one was kind of weird. It's kind of an anomaly, because it was in 98 when everything was an anomaly, so it doesn't even matter. But I've always bootstrapped since then. The second one, IT Watchdogs, where we made server room climate monitors physical things that looked at servers, and if it got too hot or humid, or the door was open, different things that could alert you. And back then, alerting you, like paging you, because that's what we had then, was cool. That was pretty neat. So
High tech.
It was high tech. That was bootstrapped, and that's a bad idea to bootstrap a hardware company, by the way, because hardware costs money, it turns out, so that's not good. And then a software company after that bootstrapped for 7 years and sold that in 2007. And then WP Engine actually was bootstrapped also for the first 2 years. Then I raised money, now it's 8 years old. But then I raised money, that's a whole other story, of course we can talk about. But it started bootstrap too. So I feel like a bootstrapper, even though WP Engine has now raised nearly $300 million. But it's actually started bootstrapped. And so I still identify a lot with that, even though, of course, we took a different route this time.
Well, and in the early days, were you a solo founder or had you co-founders?
Different. IT Watchdogs was co and later was solo. So for me, I think I am a better solo founder because, again, of my antisocial, I'm always right kind of attitude. So I think that's better. So I don't have to like convince someone else. I can just do it already. Which again, like it's not clear if that's good or bad. It can be good because you can make decisions quickly and do things fast if you're not talking to anybody else. That's a good thing because speed does matter, and making decisions, even if they turn out to be wrong, but making them quickly is important. So that can be good. But there's no one to commiserate with over the things that are not good. And there's no one with other ideas.
Or to tell you it's a crap idea.
Or a crap idea, right? And there's less people doing work, which is obviously bad because there's nobody. So having 2 people instead of 1 person is double the work, which is good because there's always too much to do, even when you have a lot of people. WP Engine's 500 people now, and there's still too much work to do, right? So that's always the case. So I think, but on the other hand, so the data are interesting. The data say that if you have a co-founder, you are more likely, more companies that are successful have co-founders. But the number one reason for companies to break apart in the data is co-founder strife. Like they disagree and then they leave and then the thing dissolves.
Like the Beatles.
In other words, it's well, except they survived. But in other words, it's high beta. In other words, having a co-founder makes it more likely to succeed and fail. It increases the variability. Now, you could argue in a startup that's what you need, actually, because everything's stacked against you. Everything. You don't have a brand, or you don't have money, you don't have a product, you don't have customers, you don't have anything, you don't have time. So taking a risk that maybe makes it more likely, even though it also makes it, also has problems, maybe that's the right choice. So I think probably having a co-founder is probably wise. But again, there's most rules in startups, it's very easy to find lots of success cases if X is true and lots of success cases if X is not true. So I don't really believe in rules. But I do believe in consistency. In other words, you could say, look, one person could say, I want to build a company that is as big as possible, has as much revenue as possible, and it's like Facebook, and we're not quite like Facebook, but whatever. And
don't mention the F word.
Yeah. And then someone else says, well, I want a company where I don't want employees because employees are horrible. You have to talk to them, do stuff, and fire them and hire them and all kinds of things. Who wants to do that? So I wanted a company that makes the most profit and never having to hire someone. It's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing, So obviously there's different goals. That's all. They're just different goals. So what's wrong to me is if given those goals, and there's other things besides just that, right? If you're making decisions that don't optimize completely for that goal, you want to do this, but then you read TechCrunch. TechCrunch is all about the Facebook thing, right? So if you want to do this and then you read TechCrunch and do what TechCrunch says, that's wrong because that's not because they are wrong in some kind of absolute sense, but because they're right for this thing and you're doing this thing. So if you're they're doing the wrong actions that are not consistent with what you're trying to do, that's wrong, only because it's not what you want. And then of course the actual problem founders do is they don't decide. I don't know, I'm just going to build something, see what happens. Well, if you don't decide what the goals are, and et cetera, what you want to build, what you want to do, then you can't optimize for it because you haven't decided what it is. And so you're going to be doing different things that may be contradictory. Who knows? Because you haven't decided what the heck it is. So I think that is, wrong is a strong word. I think that's a suboptimal, and it's better to try to understand, what do I want? What would be fulfilling? What would be, if I built something that I actually wanted to be at, what would that be like? Because it turns out, and we can talk about this too if you want, that founders generally build companies that they don't like to be at, and then they're unhappy, and then different things happen. They leave, they sell, they stay, but anyway, they're unhappy.
Why do you say founders build companies they don't want to be at?
So I think the fundamental reason is because they don't know what will make them happy. Just people don't know what makes them happy, right? Know thyself is the hard thing that people don't know how to do in general. Okay, so founders in particular don't. And so if the whole promise of entrepreneurship is to build the thing that that it's yours and it's the thing you want to be at in all your way, that's the whole idea. But if you don't know what you like, how do you know you're building it, right?
Okay.
Okay, but so you don't decide. And then the other thing is things always change. Change always happens, right? Buddha taught us this, right? There's always change. So, well, the company's small and I really like it, and then the company grows, and then maybe you don't like being the CEO of a bigger company, because that's a whole different role.
Is that what spurred you to exit from IT Washroom and SmartBear?
IT Watchdogs was another story, but another reason I should say. But SmartBear, I burnt out, and I can tell a story, no problem.
Please.
But just to finish the first point, and then I will.
Sure.
I'm happy to tell that story. The company changes and gets bigger, and you don't like it anymore, but you still want to be the CEO, but you don't like being the CEO. You get in this weird thing. Or maybe the company doesn't grow, but 10 years doing the same thing, probably bored. You're a founder, that's probably boring. So the fact that you change, in other words, you don't want to do it. Or the company shrinks, and that's not fun, of course, and et cetera. In other words, things change. It doesn't stay nice or good or whatever good is, right? So that's the fundamental problem, and there's ways of dealing with that. Anyway, so burnout. So here's what happened at SmartBear. So this is a company. What we did is we made peer code review software, meaning software developers who write code, they review each other's work, just like authors and editors do in articles, and for the same reasons, find bugs and whatever, new people coming in, helping them. So just review, of course. Why wouldn't you look over each other's stuff, right? So we made a tool that did that. So I was running this, what ended up being 7 years. So this isn't like in and out. This is, a big chunk of time. So anyway, I bootstrapped it and single founder, which is hard, right? It's very stressful, obviously. I didn't hire my first person until 2.5 years in. Anyway, so I got this. So I'm in Austin, where I'm from, Austin, Texas, and so we have Tex-Mex restaurants. That's our deal. Tex-Mex and barbecue is our deal.
Nice.
I mean, you drink black liquid like oil. I don't know. I mean, we all have weird stuff, right? So anyway, by the way, do not have Guinness in America ever. It will make you very sad, because we don't have the same thing, right? Because America's so stupid. They radiate it, so it's dead. It's literally dead. It's terrible. It has like this metallic aftertaste. And if you drink it, you'll realize that 300 million people think this is Guinness, and then you will cry and not have something to drink. So don't do that. Anyway, okay. So I'm at a Tex-Mex restaurant, which just means like Mexican / I don't know, whatever we do with it. So enchiladas and beans and stuff. And so I'm talking to this guy from New York City, from Insight Venture Partners, which is one of the largest venture firms in the world. And he gives me a good offer for the company. And it's, again, bootstrapped, it's profitable, we're growing, nothing's wrong, right? So I don't need to do that. So, but it's a good offer, like it's very reasonable. So I go home, tell my wife, like, I don't know what to do, because on the one hand, like I've been doing this for 6 years at that point, and this is a good offer. So that's what's wrong with that? On the other hand, we don't have to. We're making more than $1 million a year in profit, and again, bootstrap. So like everything's fine. We don't need to do that. I don't know what to do. And she says, "Oh, you have to sell." I said, "Oh, why?" She goes, "Well, don't you realize how unhappy you are?" No, no, I hadn't realized that. Right? Of course, she knew, and probably everybody else, right? I couldn't sleep, and I was probably, snippy, or I don't know, bad things, right?
Yeah.
And so no, but of course then I sold. And so how did I get there? Because who sets out for that? Who sets out with that as the goal? Nobody. Okay, well then why? And there was this study. There's not a lot of data about this, unfortunately, but Columbia Business School did a study of 22 entrepreneurs, all of whom had exits of 10 million or more. And who cares what? Dollars, it doesn't matter. It's a lot of money, everything's fine, right? And all but one were depressed. So it's not like sometimes this happens. Like, no, this always happens except for that one person, whoever they were. Good for them. This is the normal result.
You're carrying huge risks with one person, right?
Yeah, well, it's risks, but I wasn't sad because look, I just got paid off for the risks. So that couldn't have been why. It just paid off. So risk, reward. So what's the problem?
You
Right?
spoke about this at the Tech Summit yesterday, I believe.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit more about that, about how you coped with that and what you learned. Did you learn from that experience?
Yes, for sure. And I did it right at WP Engine, which is why I'm still here after 8 years and
Okay.
I'm liking things. So I did it right the next time, but which I'm happy to talk about. So what's going on where you don't? So you identify as a founder. You identify with your company, and when I say identify with, I mean I keep bringing studies up, but data's nice because maybe it's real. Maybe not, because we all know science isn't right. All this, there's a problem now where experiments are not reproducible, and so who knows? Maybe this is all bullshit. But anyway, so there's a study where they did MRIs of founders. They stuck them in the machine and showed them images, and so they showed them images of landscapes and neutral thing, and the brain's just sitting there in neutral, doing nothing at all. And then they show them pictures of their kids. Oh, and the brain goes like this, kids, good, bad, all this kid stuff, and. They go back to normal, go back to neutral. They show them back landscapes, it goes back to neutral. And then they show them pictures of their company logo. And it goes right back to kid mode, same pattern. It's kid mode. So when they say it's your baby, it's like your brain says, yes, that's what it is. So it makes some sense maybe if you sell it, because we don't sell kids unless we're really desperate. And so, or if they're really bad,
So you're saying then that running a startup is as stressful as having kids?
I don't know. I think they're different. I don't know. I don't want to stretch it too far, but it is emotional and in a way that's not like a job.
So what?
It's deeper than
you
that. For
discover
sure.
then as your coping mechanism?
Yeah. So the biggest thing was to set ego aside and realize that what everybody wants to do is do something that they love and do something they're good at. I mean, they could be growing and learn, not good at it yet. Okay, but generally, that you love, that you're good at, and that the company actually needs, or the organization, doesn't have to be a company, that is needed in the world or in that organization, at home, whatever, is useful. Not screws into a wall that nobody, that's not fulfilling either. It has to be useful. And if that's not true, there's different unbalances of that, and that manifests in different ways, which is useful to enumerate because then you can see, is that happening in this one way? So just for example, it could be good. If I'm doing something I like but I'm not good at, that's called learning. And that's okay. But let's suppose I'm doing something I'm good, I like, I'm not good at, but the company needs it. If the company really needs it and I'm not good at it, well then we need someone who's good at it. Because we just said it needs it. I'm sub-optimizing the company because I like it. Oh, see, that's actually a really bad thing. It feels good, because you like it, and as a founder, there's no boss telling you, we need this to be good. So you just do it. Now, who's telling you no? But see, that's why it's a trap, because you don't have a boss. The only boss is yourself, which you've established. You're a shit boss. We already know that. You're terrible, right? And so that's a real trap, for example. Or even something, the other trap, which is burnout, is I'm doing something that the company does need, and I'm good at it, but I don't like it. That's what I got in at SmartBear. Company needs it. I'm good at it, but I don't really like it. So I'm really good at sales, and I was the only salesperson at SmartBear. Why? Oh, by the way, at SmartBear, this is again the code review. Our customers were Qualcomm, Microsoft, Cisco, EA Sports, IBM, and big companies. So sales was real. You had to go do. I was on the road with my little portable projector at the time, because you couldn't trust anyone's colors to be right. You remember?
I remember.
And I was on there doing it, and I was good at it. I mean, obviously it was working, but I didn't like it. But I tried hiring salespeople, and it didn't work out. Why do you suppose? Because they're bad, or because I don't know how to hire and manage salespeople?
I don't know.
Well, WP Engine right now has 90 salespeople, so you could decide what that means. That whether sales doesn't work or whether I can't do it.
Okay.
Well, I can do it. I can't manage it. I can't hire and manage it, right? Or I'm not good at it, all right? And so
Sounds a bit like Wolf of Wall Street.
yeah. Oh boy, I hope I'm not that. Jesus. There's never been an orgy at WP Engine that I know of. And so here I am doing something that's needed, and I don't like it. Well, of course, you're going to start resenting that, et cetera.
Yeah.
The other thing founders do in general, and you probably all have thought this before, is you think, well, so I just hired somebody, and there's crap that has to be done. I used to change the pellets in the urinals at work because someone had to, right? And then you think like, well, I don't want to tell somebody, I just hired an engineer, I'm not going to tell that person to change the pellets in the urinals, and I'm too cheap to hire a janitor because we're bootstrapping, so we straighten paper clips to save money, right? So I'm not going to do that, so I'll change the pellets in the urinals. So we all change the pellets ourselves, right, to protect our employees and make them happy. We'll take all the scut work. Well, what does that mean? You do shit all day, right? That's what that means. Well, that's not necessarily nice. And by the way, the people working for you maybe don't want you to do that all day either. Maybe they don't mind helping, or maybe they don't want you to just be doing that anyway. Like, it's not necessarily, you're not being a martyr necessarily. It's not necessarily good. But we do that a lot. We think this is a good idea. We're being nice. We're being a good boss. Because again, we don't know how to be a good boss. We're bad at it, remember? So like, no, that's probably not what it means to be a good manager and to care about other people. This is not exactly it. Anyway, so there's different ways in which we end up in a place that either we don't know how to do that, or we have these weird ideas that are not quite, their heart is in the right place, but it's not quite the right manifestation of a solution. Okay. And so we end up making that job we don't want. Also, at SmartBear, I was clear on what the goal was. I told everyone who we hired, before they were hired on, I said, listen, if we ever get a good offer for the company, we're going to sell it, so just so you know. I told every single person. Now, WP Engine, we have a different goal, but I was clear on that. So that part I had right, that I knew what it was, and then we did. So,
And a lot of people made a lot of money, right?
Yeah, I was generous with that, and that's right.
So moving on then to WP Engine, how did that come about, Jason?
So after I sold WP Engine, SmartBear. At SmartBear, I'd made a blog, and the idea was everyone at the company would write on it, and it would become our voice, like 37 Signals, the voice of the company. And no one ever wrote on it but me, whatever that means. So it became my blog. And so after I sold it, and then eventually left 2 years after that in 2009, it had become very popular. And it was one of the larger drivers of traffic to SmartBear. And so even though I left, they're like, just keep doing that because that's working. Nice. So it just became mine. Then I was a stay-at-home dad for a year. And so my wife was pregnant actually when I left, and so it was for her first year. My daughter's now 8, and that was awesome. I would never give that time back for anything. But it's, of course, anyone who has kids knows that's a very difficult and it's like a brain fog that you're so sleep deprived. You thought sleep deprivation happened in college? No, like you've never been this sleep deprived, right? I know we've all had this experience where, if we've had kids, where you're sitting there in the chair and if you do the wrong move just by 1 degree, it's going to be another 25 minutes before this thing goes to sleep, right? So it's just, and then you look out the window and it was like this, the kind of like dusk. And I thought, I legit right now do not know if the sun is going up or down. I have no, right? No, it could go either way. But all I know is I'm going to be in this chair for 25 minutes. I'm going to find out. We've all been there, right? That's why everyone's laughing. Anyway, so you want to have kids, everybody? Yay! So much fun. Okay, so in that period, it was great to have something that was intellectually stimulating, that stayed connected to the outside world, of course, but also no deadlines, no rules, nothing, so I didn't have to worry about it. So writing became that thing. So I did that for, a while, and then it became very popular. And so I'd get on the front page of these sites that share such things like Hacker News, and now my site would crash because I got 15 hits per second, which is what you get on Hacker News. Now at WP Engine, we peak at around 100,000 hits per second, so it doesn't sound like a lot anymore, but to us, it was a lot then. So anyway, it would crash the little server I was on, so I started calling up other people who had blogs and sites that were built on WordPress, which is the site building system that we were using. It now powers 30% of the internet, by the way. So it's like 30% of every site you go to is made with this technology. Anyway, so mine was too, and so I called other people that used it and said, hey, I just want it to not go down when I get on Hacker News. What do you guys use for WordPress? I don't care if it costs maybe $50 or $100 a month. That can't be $1,000, but it can't be $3. It doesn't have to be $3 a month like the big cheap stuff. What do you guys use? And the answer was always, I don't know, but if you find it, call me because I need that. Right. Now, of course, that doesn't make it a good idea, and we could talk too about like how do you validate an idea. So I took 4 months to go out and validate it. I had a different idea. I also validated with the same process and decided it was a bad one, by the way. We can talk about all that if that's fun. But anyway, so this one, though, after 4 months of 50 interviews, seemed like a good one. I can explain how that works.
So just for people who might know, so WordPress is an open source content management system that in theory you don't need any help with. But unless you're sort of technically proficient, you can only do the very basics, right?
Yeah, look, I'm an engineer. I should know how to set up a website, and it was crashing.
Okay.
Right, so it's not easy to make it fast, to make it scalable, to make it secure. We're all scared about security, right? So that's hard, obviously, and so forth. And I couldn't call anyone about it. There was no support, and so actually those were the 4 things I found in that investigation. Those are the 4. If we did those 4 things, people would pay a lot for it because those are all valuable. Take one of those away, and it's not actually. So. Anyway, so if you want, we can talk about how I, sort of how I validate stuff that might be useful for some folks here. But anyway, so it was good. So I started doing it, and we launched with about 30 or 50 customers, and it took a while to start growing. And then we changed pricing, which is a whole other story, which we could talk about, because pricing's hard, right? Everyone struggles with that. And we all hear Patrick McKenzie saying, double your price. Well, okay. We could talk about pricing if you want as well, but anyway, we made a pricing change in January of 2012, and that really just set us off in a different trajectory altogether, and we never stopped growing at that speed.
Brilliant. Well, I think everyone is interested in validation of an idea and also pricing. So
yeah, it's all hard.
Can you give us a bit of oversight of the validation principles? How should that be done?
Yeah, I'm happy to. And I guess I should also say, by way of background, in 2009. Austin started a thing kind of like Y Combinator or Techstars. In other words, investment plus mentorship, and except only the mentors could invest. So actually it was, don't just give me advice, like give me money and then you can give me advice. Right? In other words, put skin in it.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Put your money where your mouth is, put skin in it. And then maybe you're probably still wrong, but at least we've got that, right?
Yeah, makes
you're
sense.
not just a pompous ass, you're pompous ass, they give me money, so it's better. So anyway, so in other words, I've invested in lots of startups and seen lots of these things besides my own, right? And so speaking from that kind of total experience, seeing a lot of people try to validate whatnot. The very best thing, and actually someone once did that, I tell everyone to do this, and only 2 people that I know of have ever done it, and it worked both times. The best thing is after you talk to the prospect, you ask them to actually write a check, like actually give you the money, or nowadays it would be run a credit card, right? Like just run it now, like just give me $50, and I might come back in 9 months with a product, and we'll call it good for 6 months after that, just because thanks, but right, give me money. And boy, you find out really fast whether they told you nice things the whole time and didn't mean it or not.
Okay.
Even if it's $10, anything, just to get over that hump, that tells you a lot.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So a couple of things about it. So first of all, I think what most entrepreneurs do wrong is you go in wanting to prove you're right. Of course, we all do. I want to. So we spend 45 minutes selling, really, right? We really are like, it does this, and do you have this problem? Well, good, because we do this, and like it's a sales pitch, really. And if you sit with someone who really does have the problem for 45 minutes and beat him to death with the sales pitch, they had better think it's good, but that doesn't prove anything, because that's not how you're going to sell things normally. So that's not a good test. So it has to be the reverse. It has to be a test of hypotheses, not a sales pitch. Right. And so the best way to do that is you start by writing down what you think is true. And it's okay if you have no idea and write down anything. So for example, with WP Engine, let's fast forward even. After we established those 4 things, which I did use this method for, then we wanted to sell to agencies as well, which we do now. And so I wanted to know what are agencies like. So I thought here's a question, how many clients does the agency have that's active? I don't know. So I wrote down 5. I really had no idea. This is just in the list, And then I had these theories about what problems they had. Like, if you have 20 sites, logging into all of them must be hard. So you would like a thing in which you could just click on one and log in, but it'd be secure. So I wrote this down. And so forth. Just write down, this is what I think is true. Then you write down, what questions could I ask that do not lead the witness, that would see whether that thing is true? It's easy if it's a number. How many clients do you have? It doesn't lead the witness. The other stuff, you be a little careful, because if you say stuff like, it must be really hard to keep track of all those passwords. What do you do for that? Is that a problem? Right? That's not good. Yeah. It'd be more like, how do you log into sites? Or do you think about security? Do your customers ask you about speed? This would be ways that you could maybe be a little more. Okay, that's what you ask these things, right? So of course, 3 things happen, obviously. So you're right, and you find out, wonderful. You're dead wrong, but then you find out probably what's right. For example, we found out there are agencies that have small numbers of customers, and there's agencies that have large number. It's kind of bimodal. Great, it's not always a binary answer. It's just, and then the third thing is like new stuff you didn't know that happens with the conversation. So what happens is you have these conversations and new shit appears, so you put them in the list, the new stuff, and you just modify it. This isn't a test for school. Just change it. Like if you think you're wrong, just freaking change it and make new questions and just do that.
Again, leave your ego at the door, yeah?
Yeah. So this kind of like, change it all the time because you're just trying to get the truth. You're not tallying anything. That's what you're trying to do. Also, how do you know if you're done and how do you know if it's working? So, you're done when it's boring because you know what they're going to say. You ask this question, they're going to either say 6 or 23 customers, and if they say 23, then they're totally going to say this. And when it gets boring, it's time to stop because that means you're not learning, because surprise is learning. That's what surprise is. Like, oh, I didn't expect that. Right? And that's what learning looks like. So if that stops, that doesn't mean you know everything. It just means this process is not resulting in new knowledge. So stop and maybe, implement it or something. But how do you know, that may happen, but how do you know if it's right or wrong? So like I said, I had another idea before WP Engine that was wrong. Here's how I knew. So of course, all ideas have good nuggets. So you can't just go by like, oh, they really lit up when I talked about this feature. Of course they did. Like it's fundamentally got some good stuff in it, obviously. So that doesn't mean anything at all. All right, so what happened with this other idea was they'd say, oh, that's really cool. You know what you should do? You should give it away for free and then only charge $20 a month for whoever and just go mass market. And the reason is, And the next person I talked to would say, that is the best thing I've ever heard. What you need to do is charge $20,000 a month and sell it through agencies because what they really need. And the next person thought I should use it for advertisement metrics for, I don't know, whatever. And so, in other words, what happened was people said, that's cool, but then there was no consensus or there's no pattern in like what anyone thought it even was and what it was even good for, who even would want this and what they would even pay. It was just like all over the place. So there's an interesting thing in physics that this is a good analogy. So like there's a formula if you have an airplane and you can put the wind over it and see all the forces, and you can do things like you can look at drag and stuff. And fluid dynamics is very complicated. The equations are nuts, and you need computers, and even then it's very complicated. But there's this really simple formula of 1/2 a constant v squared is how much drag there is, where the constant depends on whatever, the configuration of the plane that you can experimentally see. And as you vary the velocity a little, it's that formula. Very simple formula for a super complex thing. So you might think, this is some kind of fundamental law we've got here, because that's crazy, it's this simple, it must be a fundamental law. Except, if the velocity goes very high, it doesn't work anymore, because turbulence changes. So, it doesn't work. And if it goes very low, it doesn't work. And also, if you change the plane even a little, it's totally different. In other words, if you just start to perturb it a little bit, just a little bit, you realize, oh, this isn't a law, this is just a coincidence. Because if I do anything, like, it just all falls apart. That's what it felt like with this first thing. It's not zeroing in, it's just falling apart. With WP Engine, it was the opposite. It was boring. Oh my God, everybody thinks the same freaking thing, which of course is great. And so that's more like the conservation of energy. It seems right, and then wait, looks like the energy's disappearing. No, it turns out that it's friction. It's still there. Oh, okay. Oh, it looks like it's disappearing. No, it turns out that magnetic spin happened in the atoms, and so it's still there.
So the model was sound.
The model is so sound, we're making new scientific discoveries because that's what's wrong. Our model of the whole universe is wrong. It's a law.
Pricing.
Quantum mechanics has still got it. General relativity still got it. Jesus, this is so in terms of that's how it felt with WP Engine. Jesus, whoever I talk to and however it changes, it just keeps coming back to this stuff, and that's how you knew that was it.
Okay, brilliant.
Pricing.
I'm aware we're nearly up to 40 minutes already because it's so interesting. But pricing then, what I mean, is it a subscription models with sort of 3 options?
Yeah, we have enterprise as well that's on the website. Yeah, there's a variety of things. So pricing. So I think a big problem entrepreneurs often do is they think like, well, this is what it costs to make, and this is what I think I'm worth, and so I'll just charge a little bit more than that, and otherwise I'm gouging. That's the usual thought. And that means you're not charging enough, because that's not at all what people think. Of course, they think, what's the value to me, and so on. Now, we all know that. So let me give you some other examples. Let me just give you some examples of real things, and maybe that will help. So there's a company in town called StormPulse. They're now called RiskPulse. And when I first met them, they had this tool that allowed big companies like Anheuser-Busch that make some of this shitty American beer in the back, and And they did supply chain analysis. Oh, it's raining over here, and so this is going to be late, so you might need to order this in order. Okay, so they make this sort of data that comes in so they can plan. Very valuable. So I said, how much are you charging? And they're like, well, it's enterprise, so 300. I'm like, oh, 300 a month? That's low, but that's a start. They're like, no, 300 a year. I said, okay, that's interesting. Well, you're selling to Anheuser-Busch, so just here's, how many people do you sign up a week? I said, 2. Maybe 1, maybe 2, that kind of number. Okay. I said, well, try this. Just make it $300 a month for 1 week. Because what's the worst case? You get 0? I mean, you're only going to get 1 anyway. Just make it $300 a month anyways. Just see. Well, they got 2 signups. Same thing. Nothing changed. So they come back. They're so happy. Oh, my God, we got 2 signups. We're rolling in dough. Now we're going to. I said, what are you going to do? And they're like, oh, my God, what are we going to do? There's this event we wanted to go to. Now we can afford to do that, and we're going to do this and that, the other thing. I said, no. You're going to do it again. Like, maybe not 10x, but like double it. Like, if you just 12x your price and nothing changed, what you're going to do is raise it again. That's what? Raise it until something happens, right? Okay, so sometimes there's quite a lot of headroom that you just don't see. And it's easy to test because nothing's happening yet. So why not test? It's easy. Another sort of random thing is how does the customer buy? So in IT Watchdogs, again, this was server room client monitoring, so physical things. And so the people we're selling to were these folks that had like closets full of gear, and they were worried that the AC would be cut out because it's Texas. Well, in America, the AC goes out, that's a problem. And so maybe the AC cuts out on the weekend, and they don't know, and all the gear fries. So we were talking to this guy, and he goes, and this guy had done this weird buying pattern. This is not recurring revenue; it's just buying stuff. He would buy like $480 worth of stuff, plus or minus $10 every month, base units and things you could plug in, different things. But the things he would buy was just this amount. It was like $470, $480, $490, $480 every month. It's like, and we said, why don't you just buy the $5,000 worth of stuff you need? What are you doing? And he says, well, see, if I buy less than $500 a month from one vendor, I don't have to fill out any paperwork. Right? So how you buy matters. So then what we did is we would ask other people about this. Do you have a budget where you don't have to ask? And we just literally ask them that. And and 500 was about it. I mean, it varies obviously by company, but 500 was about right. And so we decided to make sure that you could buy packages that were useful for under $500 always. So in other words, we used the fact that that's what the buying pattern was to set the price on purpose. So anyway, so how they buy. See, that has nothing to do with features or our brand or advertisement. It has nothing to do with any of that stuff. This is just the like boring mechanics of purchase. And so I just want to say that that's important and maybe overlooked a little bit because it's more fun to talk about brand or something. Mm-hmm. But that's really important and can make so we had actually a competitor that was at $800 and it was really hard for them.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like a lot. What's the difference? And it's also contrary to like charge more. Well, maybe. Yeah, that is reasonable advice, but not always. And so understanding how the purchase works, maybe that helps find that right place, like that. So, yeah.
So talk for a bit about culture in WP Engine. So you've got over 75,000 customers.
Yeah, 80. Yeah.
80,000. Mm-hmm. Sorry. 500 employees. Mm-hmm. You're in San Antonio, Austin, Texas, London. Limerick. Shining light.
Hey! Oh, wait.
What's your culture? What's important to you with your employees?
Well, it's easy because we have it on the wall and we all have to sign it. But companies have culture on the wall, so that we all know that's bullshit, right? It doesn't mean anything that's on the wall. So culture really is, I think what culture really is when you just walk in the door and talk to a random person, however that is, that's what it is. Another way to say it is, how do you make decisions? The hard decisions, really, the difficult decisions. Is it okay for someone to give, we have some folks here, is it okay to give a customer a $1,000 refund because it's the right thing to do? I see a lot of people nodding. Yes. Why do we know that? I mean, there's not a lot of companies where someone can just do that. That's a good chunk of change. I don't know about that. And so the reason is because our first thing says do the right thing. That's our first cultural value. It's on the wall. And we define what that means. Here's literally what it says. I like this one. I didn't make it up. I wish I did, but I didn't. If it's right for the customer and it's right for the company, and you're proud of your decision in the moment. You can decide it was a mistake later. It's okay. But you're just proud then you did the right thing. And when you can, now that's not too specific, which is good because everything changes as we previously established. So you can't put the operational stuff and whatnot in your culture because that will change. Everything will change. But you can say things like that. And then our second one is customer inspired. And our fourth one is built to last. The first bullet says we value long term over short term. So what's best for the customers? Does it feel like the right thing? That maybe we messed up or maybe we didn't, but it feels like the right thing to do this. And we're inspired by what our customer's doing and want to do that. And, to keep this customer for the next 5 years, let's do this. See, we just made a hard decision, one that costs us money based on value. So if that's how we're making that decision, that's how you know the culture is real. When we had a very tough time in 2015, December 9th, not that anybody remembers, where we had a security incident. It turned out, and all this is public information, so it's okay, you're recording it. It turned out it wasn't our fault, and actually our customers weren't really hacked, but we didn't know that. We just knew that they might be. And that something was going on, right? Because it takes a whole investigation to find out. Turns out it was this Russian hacker, and there was several U.S. agencies that knew about this guy for years. Like, it was actually kind of a big deal, so we couldn't talk about it, the details, which is also, of course, annoying. But here we just found out about it, and here we're faced with a decision. What do you do, having found out that there might be a security problem, and you have people's data and websites and stuff? What do you do? So what you normally do as a company is you hope no one ever finds out and don't say a damn thing. And then you get like Yahoo, who sells to Verizon, and we all find out, 500 million accounts are compromised, and they knew that, and so there it is, right? It happens all the time. The second thing that you do, the second possibility that's slightly better is you wait till the whole investigation is done so you know everything. And then the lawyers and the PR firm sit down and craft a very, very well-written little 2-paragraph thing that's not a lie. The lawyer said it's not a lie, right, about things. And you've all gotten these emails. Hi, listen, there's nothing to worry about, but like less than 1% of our customers may have had something. Really, you shouldn't do anything but actually change all your passwords and get a new name. Right? Right? That's what that is. No, something really bad happened, and this is what they were able to say. Right? That's what it was. Okay. So, but we have to look at our values, and now we have to make a very hard decision. So, is that right by our customers? Are we proud of that? No way, right? No one can say they're proud of that. That's crap. So within 2 hours of finding it, we did craft something, but of course, but you're careful when you're communicating with tens of thousands of people. Within 2 hours, we communicated to the entire customer base. Something might have happened. This is what we recommend. Change passwords. We've set up this special website where we'll be putting updates, but not a lot because it's an ongoing investigation, so we can't tell you a lot of details, which guess what? Everyone was super mad about that, right? Like, well, what's going on? And we couldn't say. And we knew that. We knew that was going to happen. We knew this was going to hurt our brand. It was going to hurt sales. We were going to get cancellations. We knew it. Like, everything bad was about to happen. Now you find out if the thing on the wall is real or not.
Right.
Now you found out. So one of the things we did is we gathered everyone in support together. And in America at the time, it was right after everyone was about to go home. It was first shift was about to go home, and second shift was about to come online. We gather everyone in a room, and we said, we're about to do this, and the phone's about to go nuts, and the chats are about to go nuts, and the emails are going to go nuts, and we can't tell you anything. You're going to have to tell everyone, I don't know. It's going to be bad. And here's why we're doing it.
Great.
If you can stay, it'd be great, but this is what's going to happen. Yeah. Everybody stayed, and it was really hard. And but people will tell you people today, if you ask anybody who was there then, a lot of people will tell you that was one of the best moments, even though it was also one of the hardest moments, because we were together, we were doing our thing, we were doing the right thing. We really were, even though it was really terrible, right? But that's what it's about. And also that's maybe more, it's about bigger than just companies and revenue and stuff. Right. It's just doing things together.
Transparency.
Another thing, a person just today got their 5-year anniversary, Glover, for the ones in the audience, right? You saw him up there? I remember at 2 a.m. that night, we're in this war room. The engineers are in the war room on the 8th floor. in Independence. And Glover just walks in at 2 a.m., just do-do-do, and he just sits down, opens his laptop, and he's like, what's going on, you guys? What can I do? And we're like, what the hell? And he's like, yeah, I had to go put my kids down and take care of stuff, and now I'm back. That's culture.
Wow.
Right?
What do you do with gender equality in your senior management? You have a pretty good record, I believe.
Yeah, so 55% of our, so you can guess how many, 55% of our executive team, C-level and SVP level only, are women. And half our engineering managers are women. And overall in the company, it's 30%, which is obviously not what you want, but it's a start, and it's certainly something. And the same thing with other things, like a third of our employees have never gone to college. We don't care. I didn't graduate college either, by the way. I went, but then I didn't graduate, so how can I care? In tech, that's rare, right? And yeah, there's a lot of the things we're petitioning. Right now, we just got more than half of our building in Austin. Now we're trying to get them to get to only neutral gender bathrooms. Just the things you can do, right? So I think when you are clear, like our values that I was just talking about are inviolable. So we're not diverse on that. That's what we believe. It's right there. There's no diversity. That's what we do, right? But that means you can let all the other variables run free, and you should, because this is what we believe. This is what we're doing together, and then everything else can run free, and you can just hire everyone says they hire the best, but you can try anyway, and know that that's really what you're. Of course, excellence in the particular position, obviously, and then this as the culture part. And I also think it snowballs. In other words, having Heather as our CEO helps, because she's huge in the Austin community, and anyone who's ever met her will agree that she's just an amazing person altogether in every way, professionally and personally and so on. So when you have people like that, and again, when you get those people in management and the executive team, et cetera, like that, well, then it sort of snowballs, because let's say I'm a very talented woman in Austin. Where can I go? Not only where I can thrive, but also like I can get that even negative feedback, but no, it's maybe coming from the real place and not from whatever. There's always that thing like, is maybe this is real, and maybe they're just telling me that because you just never know.
Right. Yeah.
You don't have to assume someone else is like that, but just who knows? So just knowing like, no, it's not that. It's a lot, and so talented people want to be there, and then everyone else. So I mean, people will just walk in and look around and go, "Sweet, this is a place that I want to be at. This is a place that I want more of this."
It's very commendable, and we're delighted that you've chosen Limerick to set up home in Ireland. What were the deciding factors in choosing Ireland and Limerick? And cognizant we have some people from the IDA, the good people from the IDA here,
right?
But what was your experience?
Yeah. So we looked at lots of places, and actually it would have been cheaper for us and easier for us to be in Northern Ireland, because we already had our London office, so we already have our UK everything, right? So clearly we weren't just optimizing for that, right? So now that we've gone through all this, it will not surprise you to learn that what we were looking for is a culture fit. In other words, a place that felt like we could hire a lot of people who are basically in line with our culture. This is a place that seems like that won't be hard, right? And then we have a learning and development culture. Our third value is best get better. So we have a dedicated learning and development group inside the company. They make curriculum and they teach people, et cetera. So that's with our ethos anyway. So here at Limerick in particular, and with the colleges and so forth, have programs of like, well, here come kids who are of course talented and everything, and here we are saying like, great, like that's what we need, culture fit and the ability to get going. And we'd love to train you. Like, you don't have to know what DNS is. We'll teach you that stuff. Let's go. And so that's a perfect fit for what we're doing already.
And in two cases there, you really put your money where your mouth is. One was you have a scholarship in the Limerick Institute of Technology here. And when you were talking about setting up here, you said you'd like to give back to the startup community. And your team here, Paul Ryan and the team, have been fantastic support to the startup community in sponsoring and helping with the judging and mentoring on startup weekends. And you've had hackathons here. And it's really great for us. And thank you very much for the early stage startup community helping develop that. It's great validation. And the fact you're in the city centre is great. So, sorry.
Our fifth value is committed to give back.
Well, so. You're practicing what you preach.
So there you go.
Before we go to Q&A, final question for you. What would be your top 3 tips, Jason, for startups in the audience here, setting out on their path? journey.
Yeah. I would say be introspective, which means being honest with yourself and about yourself. That's important. That kind of lying doesn't help. I would say decide what it is that you, I wouldn't say like where do you want to be in 5 years, but decide what is fulfilling, what do you really love to do, what kind of a company you might build. In other words, these kind of goals so that you can optimize for them. Otherwise it's a random walk and you only maybe get lucky, and as we know, again, like usually you don't get there even if you're successful. So that's stupid. Like you got to figure out what that is, even though that's very hard. It's easy to say and super hard to do, but that's what I think is important. Right. And I would say don't worry about what the media or me or anybody says about things. You know, TechCrunch is ridiculous, and a lot of the internet is. And the thing is, there's all this advice, and actually all of the advice is good for somebody. So once you figure out here's what I am, then you can try to filter out like what's the advice that's right for what I want, and then maybe zeroing in on that could be good. You know, oh, they have my ethos, they have my goals. So maybe their ideas really are often applicable to me. All right, sweet. Now we're talking, right? But the general cacophony of everything, it's so easy. It's so funny. At the one hand, we're founders saying implicitly, we know best about everything. We know like everybody should. I'm right about all these things. On the other hand, of course, we all have imposter syndrome. Well, I don't know. Is that really right? That's not what so and so said on the internet. So maybe I'm not right. Like on the other hand, that's all we do all day long, right?
Really, really wise advice.
Yeah.
Personally, I've done 27 of these over the last 27 months, and I'm passing the baton on soon. And I found your insights to be one of the best of all the guests we've had.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. And
appreciate it.
Thank you very much
Thanks
for joining
us. Thank you.